Same shit, different day. Doesn't seem like much has changed since I retired. Place is still rotten with gonks.
Welcome to Video Game Spookstimism. It's the Optimus video game variety show where two best friends usually talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is Chase.
My name is Boney D. Wait, no. My name is David McBones.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Boney D is not good.
Yeah, it's a little steamy D adjacent.
Yeah, that was a little too blue.
Yeah, it's like the first 30 seconds of this thing. Like, gotta show our true colors at least a little later, although who knows, maybe.
We gotta reel people in first.
Hey, this is our culmination of Spooky Month.
It is.
For any of you who are new to Video Game Podtimism, if this is your first episode, I normally never would say this, but I would actually recommend not having this one be your first one because it is totally different.
It's a little different.
It's totally different from what we normally do. Normally we talk about video games, but here, this episode, it's just spooky stories, kind of relating to video games a little bit.
Yeah, tangentially related to video games.
We started this trend, I think, since the beginning. I'm pretty sure this was the first year we did this one.
Yeah, this is the holdover of the variety component of our variety show.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. Where there was a lot of things, but this one kind of stuck.
Our vestigial segment.
I also think it stuck because we only do it once a year. It's a lot. It's a lot of investment.
It's effort. It's a lot of effort.
I feel like we rarely talk about this, but like I feel like I really don't have to prep that much for this show, which is kind of why it is so sustainable. Is that like I will just be playing video games anyway, and I'm already thinking about them a lot.
I'm already playing and thinking about games.
Yeah, so the only thing I need to do is look up like what Joe Video thought of a video game from the 2000s, or like, you know, when a game came out and who made it and shit. But hey, writing is hard.
Writing is hard.
So we only do it once a year. But yeah, that's what we're going to do this episode. So hey, if it's your first one, go either forward or backwards in the episode order.
Or,
and check that out.
I'm not one to tell you what to do. If you want to start off with this one and get weird with it, go ahead.
Yeah, we're not your dads. We're just your podcast friends.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so hey, why don't we do the short stories?
Let's do it.
Okay, I'll start. Okay. I feel like usually I go second, so why don't I start this one off?
Start us off.
Okay, cool. You and I had talked about both doing cyberpunk stories.
Yes.
And I took that a little bit literally. Okay. So yeah, I don't have a title for this one. I sometimes do. Okay. Maybe I'll have one by the end.
Okay, great. Just figure it out in the moment. Do it live. Yeah.
A lone figure slips between the narrow alleyways of River City. His face nearly completely obscured by his hooded cloak, intended to make it harder to see who is skulking through these damp streets. The once legendary netrunner, T, peeks out of his hood, attempting to clock if he's in the right place. These streets used to be so familiar. Now that time is almost completely lost to my memory, what from all my biohacking and stuff. T cranes his neck and looks up at the narrow, tall building that at one time he called the house of a friend, an escape, and even a home. The house of the Bronzefoot family. While never a proud beacon on a hill, it had never known the disrepair that he now found it in. The foundation was cracked. The sides of the building were seemingly running away from each other, and the windows looked like they had molded over and could no longer be seen through. Even still, T had gotten a letter that he couldn't ignore, and found that obligation now knocking on the front door. He waits for quite some time. T deduces based on the creaking floorboards and the shouts of static coming from the televisions in the house that there is someone home, and tries to give him the patience of an old friend. As T raises his hand for a second knock, the door sheepishly cracks and a single eye peers back at him. Surprisingly feminine voice greets him. UT? Mobe, is that you? The door widens slightly, and its various latches and chains tighten as the voice in the house attempts to verify who stands outside the door. Hey T, you get Toby's letter?
Toby.
Yeah, can I come in? Rain's coming down out here. The letter first, gotta make sure. T, after shoving down some frustration, hands the voice on the other side of the door the letter. The door momentarily slams shut behind it, but after a few tense moments and a litany of latches being undone, the door opens completely and T steps inside. The heavy air greets T's nostrils and immediately weighs down his lungs. It feels as though the same recycled oxygen has been kicking around this house since the last time he left. As he turns toward Moby, his nearly half-robotic body also perceives the presence of static. To a completely human body, static feels like a sort of pressure or tension in the air. To a cyborg like T, it feels like sticking your head out of a moving car and trying to breathe. It's possible, but not without some discomfort. This place ain't what it used to be, Moby. Toby's dead, T. The simplicity of the words collide with T like a punch in the rib cage. It was a phrase he had half expected to hear every day just walking around on the street. Toby lived an extremely rocker boy lifestyle, constantly and annoyingly espousing the failings of living under a capitalist rule. He wasn't wrong, but lordy, he was an annoying messenger. As much as T knew the risks Toby was taking every day, can you ever really be truly prepared for someone's death? The question lingered in his mind before he attempted to force some kind of logic around this loss. When? How? Toby's not one to get zeroed out that easily. Don't be a gonk, T. This has been a long time coming. Toby's been sick for a long time. You'd know that if you ever kept in touch. Come on, Moby. Eddies don't come easy these days. It's hard to get out of River City that often. This is the moment that I'm going to pause and say River City is technically geographically in Sacramento.
I was hoping that was the fact.
Yeah, that's correct. There's going to be nothing made of that promise. There will be no Sacramento references.
It's cool. Night City is Morro Bay, so
yes,
it works out.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
That's a pretty little excuse you got there. I see your activity on the net, T. You're not hurting for eddies. Caught in the truth, but unwilling to give it any voice, T sighs and rubs the back of his head. He died a few days ago. After he sent you that letter, I presume. I only got this a week ago. He must have been close when he wrote it. What kind of sickness did he have, Mobe? Please don't call me that anymore. It's been way too long, and I don't know. He moved back here to take care of me about a year ago and pretty quickly came down with something. Images and sounds flash onto T's minds. Fights with Toby about his lifestyle, about how he can't ever take a load off. Shouting matches with Moby about Toby. Rumors heard on the net about the Bronzefoots and their comings and goings. He's in there if you want to see him. Jesus, Moby, you kept his body in the house? Coroner's taking his dear sweet time coming out here. Plus Toby's pretty crumbed up. There's not much left of him to rot. Toby steps into what T knows used to be a living room, but now just houses a tidal wave of wires, a brain dance machine, and Toby himself. Much to his surprise, Moby was right. He doesn't look well, but he also doesn't look nearly as zeroed out as some of the other chooms he's lost over the years. There's a quiet moment between the three of them. Toby breaks first and squints his eyes, fighting back the avalanche of memories that seeing Toby in person is bringing upon him. With a shaky voice and almost responding to T's emotion, Moby says, "There's this old story in the Bronzefoot family that says once you're zeroed out, there's a chance that you get to meet all our ancestors on the net before you get totally wiped out. All those gangsters and ghouls going back as far as River City does. Makes it a little less hard thinking about Toby getting zeroed. Show everybody all the change he's made. Plus, he passed in the BD machine, so maybe he's got a better chance." "Yeah, maybe." T, overcome with the moment, steps into the kitchen and strains his eyes against the fluorescent glow of the lights above him. He glares at a screen in the corner of the room, surely left on by Moby. "Hey, Moby, any reason you're keeping this on?" Moby leans back from the living room, vapor still on her eyes, looks in the corner, and at T again. "T, if you're here to pull pranks, you can just leave now." "What? Looking back in the corner, T sees the television off. Myriad of options of how it must have burned out, died, gotten a power surge, flashed through his mind. That said, there still remains the slightest bit of static scratching at the edge of his perception. Before he can interrogate it any further, Moby enters the room and hurls a folded towel at T. "Look, the coroner's supposed to come tomorrow, and this shit ain't easy, T. I don't know if you got a place to stay tonight, but there's plenty of spare bedrooms in this house. Stick around. Might help to have somebody familiar when he leaves tomorrow." T, still momentarily distracted by the static in his ears, speaks before he can second guess it. "Yeah, sure. The guest bedroom probably still has some of my old stuff in it anyway." "All right. Thanks, T. I'll see you in the morning." T finds himself hours later, staring up at the ceiling of a place he used to know as well as his own home, the static still gnawing at his consciousness. He triple-checked that there were no wayward TVs in this room and double-checked that his implants weren't on the fritz. Still nothing. There's a saying that you hear corpos say sometimes to justify sleeping under their desk. You'll sleep when you're dead. Well, Toby used to say that T might not even sleep then. If T only wakes up with crow's feet under his eyes, that's a good night. But now, there's this constant droning static that he just can't seem to shake. However, for just a moment, his hearing clears, which ironically rockets T awake. He waits in the lightless room for a sign of what finally cut the sound. And instead, he hears something impossible. "Wake up, kid. It's time to listen to me talk about corruption." T fumbles around the room, looking for evidence of Toby, only to find none. It's just him. T tears open the door and sprints towards the living room. While Toby's old house is no mansion, it feels much harder to navigate than it used to. On his way back to the living room, T encounters doors and curves in the hallways that he swears he's never seen before. Patterns on the walls that he's not familiar with. T rounds a corner and sees his room down the hall. Didn't he just come out of there? Dazed, T opens the door to his room. It's still the same, but that damn static is back. He takes off again, trying to retrace how he got to this room earlier. At long last, he finds himself in the living room. Much to his surprise, Moby's already there. She's standing, lurched, still, over the brain dance chair at an angle that looks hard to maintain, arms at her side, her face jutting out.
Ooh.
Mob? As if shaken out of something, Moby whips around, a crazed but desperate look in her eyes. Where is he, T? Where's who? T's eyes drop down to the chair, and to his great horror, Toby no longer sits slumped in the machine. He's gone. T's dead. He's been dead. I checked his pulse over and over again, hoping for things to not be what they are, but he's dead, T. So please tell me you know where his body is. Mob, I just got here. I couldn't possibly have. The static climbs to a roar, and both T and Moby double over. T desperately claws at his ears, hoping that he can break one of the implants in his ears to turn the volume down. He feels metal and circuitry crack, but there's no relent on the droning.
Static.
Kid, it's time to get up. Moby screeches and takes off running down the hallway. T, in anguish, follows her, hoping that she knows a way to stop this. He stumbles and falls onto and off of the hallways of this home, knocking up dust and mold, kicking the carpet running along the floor out of place. T ignores the mess and chaos behind him, laser focused on running away from whatever is causing the noise. There's no logic to his retreat, just a cornered animal hoping to find relief in the comfort of the unknown.
Whoa.
Seemingly drawn to one end of the hallway. Was that a bar? Did you feel good about that?
That was a bar. That was a bar.
You.
Snaps.
Thank you.
I would snap right now.
Thank you. Seemingly drawn towards one end of the hallway, T darts inside a room that he has no memory of, slamming the door behind him. Inside, it's yet another BD machine. As if taunted by T's moment of relief, there's a flash of static once more, but this time, rather than it being an assault what he hears, it is an affront against what he can see. A figure, seemingly made out of television static, appears in front of T. Hey kid, good to see ya. Toby, is that you? The very same. I got questions for you. You ever find it weird that the cops can go faster than the speed limit? Like rules for thee, but not for me, huh? Moby said you died. What's happening here? Don't look very dead to me, kid. But here's the thing. The Bronzefoot family are cursed, and so is this house. We've been fighting amongst ourselves for generations, and this place has seen it all. Moby's sick with whatever I got too, and with that kind of disease, there's only one thing to do. The apparition of Toby produces a lighter and flicks it open. He draws a cigarette to his lips and begins to smoke. Toby, we can talk about this. We can fix whatever problem you're feeling. We can get you back. No coming back from where I'm at, kid. This is a one-way train ticket. You ever notice how when you reserve a seat on the train, there's always somebody who seems to have taken your spot? Like, didn't you check the ticket? This society's fucked, man. Just as Toby arrives at the end of his rant, a blast of electromagnetic force goes off and Toby seems to double over. The door behind T opens and Moby looks down, eyes wide with urgency. Come on, I bought us a little time, but he'll be back. They both scramble towards the front end of the house while T frantically tries to talk to Moby. How did you know to do that? I've done it before. I honestly thought those were dreams the last time it happened, but I didn't want to believe it. You said you're sick, Mob. I am. Well, let's get out of here. This place is bad for both of you. At least leave while you're still whole. Moby lets the demand hang as they make it towards the front door. Without hesitation, T pulls on the front door. It resists and protests, but eventually he is able to engage his chrome and pull it off its hinges.
Nice.
The pouring rain outside greets him like an old enemy. T looks back, hoping not to see Toby. Instead, all he sees is Moby, looking down the hall. He thinks we're sick, T. I know, and it's this house. Please, come with me and we can set this right. I don't think there's such a thing as leaving for me anymore, T. I just take this place along with me wherever I went. Moby, please. Electricity in the air collects itself and slams a hand on the wall down the hallway opposite from T.
Spooky.
Moby, I don't think there's any time left. I think you're right, T. It's been really good to know you. Mob! Just then, T is thrown from the doorway and into the street by the force of Toby moving down the hallway. He and Moby collide and a terrible screech comes from where they stood. T grasps at the ground, looking for some anchor in this horrible moment. He looks up at the building as it seems to quake and rumble, threatening to collapse completely. When I gazed, this fissure rapidly widened. There came a fierce breath of the whirlwind. My brain reeled as I saw the mighty walls rushing asunder. There was a long, tumultuous shouting like the voice of 1,000 waters, and the deep, dank turn at my feet closed sullenly and silently over the fragments of the House of Bronzefoot.
Whoa.
And that's it.
Whoa.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you.
Can you read that one line again?
Which one? The one that you liked?
Yeah.
That's very kind of you because the last line just now is just straight up Edgar Allan Poe. I just took that entire segment.
Good.
Very nice to skip over him. The one that you liked is he stumbles and falls onto and off of the hallway of this home, knocking up dust and mold, kicking the carpet running along the floor out of place. T ignores this mess and chaos behind him, laser focused on running away from whatever is causing the noise. There's no logic to his retreat, just a cornered animal hoping to find relief in the comfort of the unknown.
Damn, that's good.
Thanks.
I like that.
Get
that was really
wrecked,
good.
Poe.
Get
Sorry.
wrecked. Yeah, Poe, fuck off, dude.
You
All
got
right?
shit.
You ain't got shit. Nevermore, I say to Poe. That was awesome. I like that. Like an electric ghost.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Little static ghost. You
I
know?
like the static. I had the sound effect from Silent Hill in my head whenever the static came, and that's always very spooky to me.
It's very spooky. If you couldn't tell, this is the fall of the House of Usher. It's just the same story.
I haven't seen that show.
Book. In fact,
I haven't read that book. God.
Yeah.
Now I outed myself as a fucking plebeian who doesn't read books.
Not a Poe head.
Not a Poe head.
Yeah, it's fun. I read, what is the book? That Which Moves the Dead, I think is what it's called. Mm-hmm. Or sorry, What Moves the Dead, by T. Kingfisher, which is also a retelling of the Fall of the House of Usher. And so I was like, hey, I'll do that too. That's fun.
That's
Plus,
cool.
like, I get to put Johnny Silverhand on blast one more time.
One more time. I mean, he deserves to be on blast. I mean, that is a very scary ghost, one that just appears and then just tries to be very deep and edgy and then just fails every time. That would be a very annoying ghost to have in your life.
Yeah, just always haunting in some way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you have a name for the story now?
I mean, if I'm being real, it probably should be the Fall of the House of Bronzefoot.
Oh, well, the House of Bronzefoot. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Thank you for sharing, Chase. That was lovely.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it.
Thank you. Okay, great. Do you want to, how about we hear yours? I'm anxious.
Wait, so one more question about your story.
Yeah.
Toby and Moby.
Yeah.
In The Fall of the House and Usher, are there two people who have very similar names except just the first letter is different?
I don't think so. I think that was just a Chalby original. No, Roderick and Madeline.
So no.
No, yeah.
I also imagine Moby as like Moby the singer.
Sure, yeah. Just a bald woman who makes music.
Cool. That was great.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. What you got?
Okay. Oh wait, did you say you have did you make up a name for it? You don't have to if you don't want to.
It's either the Fall of House of Bronzefoot,
House of Bronzefoot, that's right.
Or Wake Up Kid.
Wake up, kid. Wake up, kid. The House of Bronzefoot has to fall.
Our house is rotten.
Our house is
metaphorically.
rotten. Yeah. Maybe also literally. I also imagine the house as the governor's mansion in Sacramento.
Yeah, sure enough. That makes sense.
Anyways,
Yeah, man. Yeah.
my story is called Do Grannies Dream of Electric Tears?
I forgot that you were doing Chromed Up Granny.
Yeah, I also did Cyberpunk, strangely enough.
Yes.
One quick thing. I feel like you can get most of the slang about Cyberpunk just from context clues, but I will say that a BD is short for a brain dance, which is essentially a memory of someone else that other people are then able to hook themselves up to a machine and experience that exact memory as if they were living it.
Yes, correct. Which I also probably should have prefaced, although it didn't dig into the story that hard.
No, that is kind of a little bit more important in mind in some ways. So I just wanted to make that clear that that's what these are.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
people will record things that happen to people and then they'll make a brain dance out of them.
Great. Okay.
Okay. Do grannies dream of electric tears? Darkness is nothing new to Night City. Whether it's found in a dank back alley, the color scheme for a shiny new piece of chrome, or even in a man's heart.
Wow.
Darkness takes many forms, and this is what scared her the most. Same shit, different day. Doesn't seem like much has changed since I retired. Place is still rotten with gonks. She slinked her way through the street, gliding over the junkies that riddled her path, trying to avoid eye contact with the Joy Choice trying to drum up business and the Ripper Docs trying to make a quick eddy. She would normally try to avoid this part of town. Too many people, too much danger, too much history. But a job is a job, and this is where her one lead had brought her, to the dingiest BD joint in town, with a rep for scrolling snuff BDs.
Ooh.
The kid had been missing for more than a day now, and his father being the face of Militech meant that finding this kid would mean a whole lot of scratch, enough to even get a retiree off the couch. This seems like the spot. Let's get this show on the road. She darted down an alleyway, making sure to keep herself hidden under her coat. She didn't want to attract too much attention by flashing her chrome. Too many desperate people here ready to make a bad decision. She followed a staircase down below the main street, away from the drugged-up masses, and felt silence and darkness set in around her. Well, this seems like the place. She was standing outside of a drab metal door on the side of a dilapidated, unmarked building. Any gonk passing by wouldn't think twice about it. Yep, suitably sketchy for what I got hired to do. Always hated this part of the work. These places are always so creepy. She pulled her coat off, and a brilliant shine cascaded across her body. The trace amount of light below the street refracted off every inch of her chromed-out body, bouncing off the most preem brawler cyberware money could buy. The long silver hair falling down her back amplified the glow of her body, making her one brilliant streak of white light.
Wow.
She got a glimpse of herself in a puddle nearby. I always hated that chromed-out granny name the Scream Sheets gave me. But damn it, I do look good. She walked up to the door and beat it down with one mighty blow. The smell of fresh burning flesh and blood began to creep up to her nostrils. She could hardly see a thing in the dark, but a quick geoscan of the area revealed a labyrinthine complex of rooms, most likely an old office building. She turned on a flashlight, and wet, bright crimson streaks of blood could be seen on the walls and floor. Viscera and body parts were strewn about, hanging from the ceiling and walls, as though these people had somehow exploded. She recoiled in disgust. Ugh, not good. Gotta find this kid fast. Something is not right here. She picked up her pace, looking through each room to try and find a trace of her target. Her feet made a wet, squelching sound as she went from room to room, squish, squash, squish, squash, looking for any signs of life. All she found was more blood, more body parts. She went to open another door, but although her feet stopped moving, the squelching sound continued. It was faint, coming from the opposite side of the building. Maybe it's a bad water pipe or something slapping against a shallow, watery surface? No, the pattern was too irregular. It sounded as if whatever was making that sound was pacing, waiting for something, waiting for her. Now, moving with more purpose and urgency, she made her way towards the sound, as her experience told her that her target must be somewhere close to where it was coming from. She tried to move as quietly as possible, the sound growing steadily louder until it stopped suddenly. She began to feel strangely lightheaded, as if the floor underneath her was tilting from side to side. She could make out something in the darkness, sliding, rolling, writhing away from her. No.
Oh, God.
Stalking her. The squelching sound started again, now from another end of the building. As she shifted her weight to turn and try and get a visual on whatever was hunting her, the floor suddenly jumped out from underneath her, She slammed down hard onto her side, and she began to slide across the blood-soaked floor toward a closed door with a faint glow coming out from the edges. "There's someone in there. I gotta get through that door." The floor began to tilt even more, and the squelching sound had turned into a low rumble. She looked up behind her. Illuminated by the faint light from the door, she saw it. A mechanical, tear-shaped blob of knives and swords encased in a steel mesh with a crude face of bloody cyberware as eyes and a mouth.
Jesus.
It was slowly moving toward her, emitting some kind of aqueous solution to allow it to roll and slide along the floor. "My, what big teeth you have!" She heard a mechanical whirring, and the floor began to tilt more. Someone must have engineered the floor to tilt to allow this monstrosity to move. It was a horrifying instrument of murder, and it aimed to cut and smash her to pieces. The floor began to tilt even more, and the blob slowly began to slide faster and faster towards her, picking up momentum and speed at a terrible pace. She slammed one of her mighty chrome fists into the ground, and with her momentum was able to swing herself around and jump to a nearby wall, balancing herself precariously and narrowly avoiding death as the thrashing blob of metal flew by her, crashing violently against the wall and causing the whole building to rumble and shake. Dust and rubble obscured her vision, but she could make out the shape of the blob, and she could tell it was again rotating toward her. The ground began to tilt, and she felt herself beginning to lose her balance. She attempted to shift her body weight to stay upright, but the blood on the wall was strangely beginning to freeze to ice. She began to slide again, and the blob began lurching toward her, now also covered in sharp, jagged, blood-soaked ice. The ice continued to spread across the room, thickening and creating a pale red sheet as far as she could see. She spun around to face the creature as it careened toward her. "Well, if you're gonna play with ice, I guess I'll play with fire." She aimed both of her fists at the blob, and hot molten jets of plasma and flame erupted from her arms. The blob was sent reeling back from the force of the flames, and now with more breathing room, she began to spin around on her back, allowing the fire to spew in all directions as she slid across the floor. The building began to fill with red steam as the ice melted. She began to feel more friction on her back, slowing her down and allowing her to right herself. She got her legs underneath her and flung herself back toward the blob. She flew through the steam, and when she saw its shape emerge through the mist, cocked back her arm and hit it with as much force as she could muster. The blob went flying across the room, crashing and smashing against a nearby wall with a loud crash, shaking the building to its very foundations. The mesh holding the blob ripped apart, and its innards deflated into a pile of loose mechanical parts on the ground. "Looks like I just burst your bubble." She raced toward the lit room and flung the door open. Bound in a corner was a gaunt, disheveled, and distraught young man. She undid his bindings. "There's no way to beat it. There's no way to beat it. There's no way to beat it. There's no way to beat it." The young man was hysterical and continued to mutter this phrase in a chant-like cadence. Granny snapped and clapped at him to get his attention. "Hello, yes, there it is. There it is. I just did. Didn't you see?" He looked up at her with big round eyes not filled with fear, but with resignation to a terrible fate. "Did you see those bodies out there? Those were the top soldiers from Militech, the best mercenaries money could buy, and the cyber psycho unit from this city. My dad put a huge reward out for my return. Anybody in the biz worth their salt is trying to get past that thing. That thing can't be stopped." "But I did, take a look." The young man's eyes glazed over again, and he resumed his chant. "So much for thank yous nowadays. Oh well, let's get you out of here anyways. No point leaving you here to become the star of this failed snuff BD." She reached out to grab the young man, but a strong shock ran through her arm when she tried to grab him. She looked back down at the young man. Terror filled his eyes as he pointed behind her. She turned around and saw the red steam filling the other rooms began to swirl and coalesce. It began again to form into a tear-like ball, slowly rising into the air, crackling with electric energy. The debris on the ground began to rattle and float, and her hair began to stand on end. She could feel her cyberware begin to crack and crackle with electrical current. The steamy blob continued to rise in the air, lightning coiling around it and shooting out in all directions. It was only a matter of time before one of them got hit, so she had to act fast. She pulled off one of her arms and quickly strapped every explosive she had onto it. "Kidnap a kid and try to kill me to make a snuff BD, only to get blown to smithereens?" She threw her arm with all her might at the floating tier of red steam. Lightning began to surge forth from the creature, grounding into the metal of the arm and igniting the explosives. The top of the building was blown completely apart, and everything within the blast zone was vaporized. Among the rubble, Granny shielded the young man with her body, keeping them both safe from the explosion. That's a kablooey dooey. The young man had passed out from the force of the explosion, probably for the best, so that he can rest. She carried him out of the rubble and made her way to collect her reward. Another successful job in the books for the chromed out Granny.
That was sensational. That was a really good one.
Thank you. Chromed out Granny was cooking.
Yeah, she really was. Damn, I think one of your better characters, and also I think one of your better stories.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was happy with how this one turned out.
Yeah, I'm really glad you also committed to the bit of voicing her in the way that you did.
Yes.
It wouldn't be nearly as good if it was just like a regular voice.
No. She has to be a granny. She has to be a granny.
Yeah.
Grannies can do it. I would say that probably, what was her name? The woman who stars in the more recent Halloween movies, the older actress.
Jamie Lee Curtis?
Jamie Lee Curtis. She was kind of my inspiration for this. Because she's a granny that kicks ass in those movies, which is great.
That is true.
I like that character.
Yeah, you really gave voice to her. It's wild.
Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy Killer Dewey?
Yeah, that was pretty good. I liked that a lot. It didn't really dawn on me until you said Kablooey Dewey.
Yeah, he was rolling. He was tilting.
Yeah.
He was freezing and he was steaming and lightning. He did all the Dewey things.
Wow. I feel like there was a lot of VGP lore in there that I wasn't expecting. You know,
there's Chromed Out Granny and there's Dewey.
Chromed Out Granny. There's Dewey. There was more. I feel like there was more in there. I don't know.
Did I say
we'll
something?
figure it out in post. Maybe that was just it, but it felt like there was a lot.
If I put more in there and I just can't remember, please someone point it out.
I liked how shaken that kid was too. This was very frightening.
I mean, he just saw a bunch of like badass military folks get squished to smithereens by this blob.
Yeah, true.
None of them got the power of the granny though.
It felt, there wasn't anything over it, but also just like, man, it feels like Silent Hill 2 in there. It's a little frightening.
There wasn't enough static, but the squelching.
Yeah.
The squelching is good.
Well, great. That was fun.
That was
very
fun.
Cool. Yeah.
Good times.
I feel like usually you skew more towards humor and I skew more towards spooky. But that was pretty frightening. That was pretty scary in there too.
I wanted to do a serious granny. I mean, she is kind of not serious. She's kind of the comedic aside in this, but she's kind of like an 80s action movie character.
Yes.
In this
all the one-liners
terrifying
are so funny.
here in this terrifying world.
Yeah, I do enjoy like a character who is unbothered in a truly horrible situation.
I think I got that inspiration from like Resident Evil, the games recently.
The ridiculous shit in there, yeah.
Yeah, they just don't. They are unfazed by these horrors. Most people would have a psychotic break and just like cower in a corner and then get eaten. Ethan Winters trucks along.
Have you played Metaphor Refantasio yet? This is absolutely not about the short stories anymore.
I have the demo downloaded. I'm planning to play it either tonight or this weekend, the demo to see, because like I've tried really hard to like get into Persona games and I got maybe like I probably put 10 hours into Persona 5. But the thing with me with those games is that I eventually always hit a wall with JRPGs and I'm just like, well, that's kind of it for me. So I'm curious to see if this one will grab me more.
I also am curious about that. It's also fantasy, which like I know you like. There's also a lot of like, at least in the beginning of the game, a fair bit of political intrigue, which like I know will also get you in.
Ooh, I do love, make it more like Game of Thrones and I'm in. Here we go.
Yeah. The reason I brought it up is that because there's like a really over the top battle theme song with this dude in the background who's just like going absolutely ham. It sounds like, and apparently he's singing in Esperanto. Which I was like,
no shit.
Yeah, really taken aback by.
Oh,
that was
my
pretty
gosh.
nuts.
So he is on a boat sailing the ship of through the Straits of Esperanto, singing in Esperanto.
It's really good stuff.
I love
anyway,
that.
that's your little bit of video game discussion for the week. Anybody who's just dying for it still.
Great. My little bit of video game discussion is Mario Party Jamboree is good.
Oh yeah, I played it too. It's very good. It's very fun.
It seems like such a nice, fun evolution of the game without going too far away from the core. It's good.
Yeah, it's good. They allow you to kind of turn the volume up a little bit on Mario Party. Of like the ally stuff is really interesting.
I like the Jamboree buddies.
Yes, yeah, that's all really good. A couple of items in there are pretty fun. I like that they made the tubes very common, the ones that just take you somewhere else. It's very fun. It's again just another chaos agent in the video game.
Another chaos agent, and also like if it's a big map and you're way far away from what needs to go on, it at least gives you a chance to get back into it, which is cool.
It's like I'm like 40 spaces away. There's no world where I get there with any haste. Let's just do this because I'm in like a bad position, or not a bad one, but like there's just nothing really working for me here.
Exactly.
It's really interesting. I find it like a pretty good Mario Party game.
I'm enjoying it. I'm just hoping. I hope the DLC. You can do DLC. You can do it, Nintendo.
That is the forever hope with any of the Mario parties, because like I would love you to just put in like 10 more boards, you know?
Yeah, more mini games, more boards. You could easily do like, I don't know, $20 DLC or something.
I would love it, but I don't know. It's I feel like that is the common denominator with this era of Mario Party games. Is like there's some cool, interesting new stuff, and I think this one is kind of the best version of that. But there's just too few maps. Like, I think the amount of maps that were on like the original N64 hardware felt appropriate for the time, because it's like it's a smaller game, and like 4 or 5 is like, all right, sure, like we can do this on the N64, but like it feels kind of weird these days.
Yeah.
I
know you can put more in there.
I know you can put more in there. And like, I'm sure that is like one of the hardest parts about making a Mario Party game is like making a board that is fun. But I would also accept just old boards from other games. Like that's also totally fine. They have that in this game. The like Western Land just is a board from older games.
I'm okay with that. Just put a new coat of paint on it.
Yeah.
Make it look good. I'm there.
Make it look good. Yeah.
Make it look good.
Anyway, that's it. That's your little bit of video games. Couldn't help ourselves.
Yep. Hey.
Thanks for listening to this episode.
Yeah.
It's very fun to make. I always really look forward to spooky season and October, obviously because birthday, but also like this is a fun time to make content on the internet.
Yeah.
So thanks for sticking around with us. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah. Happy spooks to
happy Halloween to anyone who observes.
Yeah.
We'll be back with just like regular autumn content next week.
Ooh, do all food-based games next week.
It's just Cooking Mama all the way down.
She's got a big catalog.
And a lot of skills. It's not just Cooking Mama. Mama does other shit too.
Yeah, this mama is a Renaissance woman, truly.
Yeah, true.
Master of all.
So yeah, thanks for hanging out on this one. I promise we will talk about video games more next week.
Yes.
Oh, if you want to get in contact with the show or just like find out more about us, you can go to podtimism.com. That's a place that has all of our like past episodes, what we've played. You can suggest a game there if you want us to play one of those. And it also has a link to our Discord. We are a proud member of the, that sounded sarcastic. It's not. Proud member of the TWG Podcast Network. They've got a bunch of podcasts over there, such as Can't Let It Go, Zip, Frog of the Week, Girl Mode, Into the Aether, Paws and Claws. We've also got some like video and blog stuff now. Brendan Bigley also has his like blog Wavelengths, but then also recently Stephen from Into the Aether has been adding videos on his series called Memory Card Manuscript. I think when this comes out, his new video will be out about Castlevania. So really thrilled about that. And also Matt Horton from Can't Let It Go just added a new video series he's calling Flow State, which is very good.
Cool.
So yeah, lots of stuff going on out there. Thank you, TWG, for having us on the network. And thank you, Scott Wilkinson, for your artwork. It's great.
Yeah.
She did the podcast art.
Beautiful.
And it looks amazing. Hey, if you want to help out the show, there's a couple things you could do. One of them is to review the show on like a podcatcher that just like helps the algorithm show other people who they're like, this is a gamer and a cool person and somebody who wants to listen to podcast. I bet that they would like Podtimism, and then it shows that to them. So yeah, maybe do that. It's cool. And thank you. The other thing you can do is show it to a friend and be like, hey, I like this podcast, because that is the thing that actually makes an impact. The algorithm is helpful, but it's much more helpful for the, let's say, the analog algorithm to do its thing. The acoustic algorithm of a friend showing you a cool thing.
Yeah. The acoustic algorithm.
Yeah.
The vibe algorithm.
It's true. So yeah, anyway, hey, listener, thank you for listening to this. Love making it. And we appreciate you being here, especially during our stranger episodes.
Yeah. Thank you.
This
is great.
David, do you have any gaming wisdom for us this week?
Yeah, I do. Always have a one-liner ready.
Sure. Yeah.
Any situation you're in makes you look really cool.
It does make you look very cool and very prepared. It's hard to I think to come up with one that's like specific enough all the time, but like maybe just have like a couple generalized ones in the chamber, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, just like some personal catchphrases, I guess now we're just talking about that can be put into different situations.
And that's a chase guarantee.
You're going to look real cool if you have a catchphrase you say 5 or 6 times a day.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely will not communicate any sort of weird brain rot or social ineptitudes.
Would you say you have a phrase that you say a lot or often during the day?
Ooh, I don't know, but I've like heard from people who said like, oh, that's a Chase saying. And I'm like,
oh,
what? What? One that like typically I don't recognize. I feel like I say that's wild pretty often.
That's wild. You say gobsmacked.
Do I say gobsmacked? That's the thing. I don't know. I don't know very often.
You're the only person I know who says gobsmacked on a regular basis. It's not like all the time, but when you're like really surprised by something, you're like, I was gobsmacked. It's like, man, that was you were really smacked by that.
I was extremely smacked. Mm-hmm. Smacked by the gob.
Smacked by the gob. Wow. Grabbed that gob and smacked it?
Yeah, that's what I do. Or no, that's what happens to me.
That's what happens. Someone grabs you by your gob and smacks it.
Okay, grabs me by my gob is interesting.
And then smacks it. Be whatever you want it to be.
You can be whatever you want to be.
No, it could be whatever you want it to be.
And also, you can be whatever you want to be.
Fine. You're trying to recontextualize this. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
All right. We'll see you in November, everybody.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.